Okay, here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Vermont State Senate's Committee on Institutions. Today is March 18th, 2021. I am your host for today's events. I'm Joe Benning, a senator from Caledonia County and chair of the committee. Also have on the screen with us today, Senator Parent from Franklin, Senator Mazza from Grand Isle, Senator Ingalls from Essex Orleans, and we are anticipating the arrival of Senator McCormick from Windsor at some short moment in time. Our schedule for this afternoon is going to begin with renovations at the field station in Berlin, and specifically the conversation will involve PSAPs. I'm going to say in advance to Steve Whitaker and Kim Cheney, Paco, when he comes to join us, as well as everybody that may be watching on YouTube, we have 3 new senators on the committee, one of whom is a brand new senator. And we also have the public on YouTube that may be watching this for the first time, wondering exactly what we are talking about. So with respect to each witness, I ask you to give a brief biographical background of who you are and how you fit into this afternoon's conversation. And keep in mind that when you are talking about terms in what you might normally see as a high-level statement of terms, most of the people that are watching on the screen need a 50,000-foot level view of what you are talking about. So keep it as simple as you can, please. Having said all that, I have 3 witnesses on tap for this afternoon, 2 of which are on the screen at the moment. And I am starting with Steve Whitaker, who is listed as an advocate from Montpelier. Steve, welcome to Senate Institutions. Can you tell us exactly why you're coming to talk with us today?
Yes, thank you, Senator. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Stephen Whitaker from Montpelier. I have been a telecommunications planning advocate and broader than that. I've been working on information policy and telecommunications for nearly 30 years. Back when the telecommunications plan was first authorized into statute and turned up missing when it was required to evaluate a contract by the major telephone company. So I've got a kind of a deep history and background. What I'm today talking about is really an example of where the rubber might meet the road when we constantly talk about coordination and efficiencies in government spending and in public safety reliability and hardening of facilities such that they withstand major storms, Irene scale, hurricane scale, ice, etc. So I have been involved in recent years in the peripheries of central Vermont's slow migration towards regional dispatch consolidation. Montpelier is a dispatch center called Capital West, located at the Montpelier Police Department. Back in the 80s, it was, and even into the 90s, I believe, it was a public safety answering point, which typically referred to as a PSAP. The E911 system in Vermont has about 8, I believe, PSAPs right now. Hartford City, the town of Hartford, and the city of St. Albans are the 2 private municipal ones. The Lamoille County Sheriff is one. The state police host 2, and Shelburne, I believe, is another. So a PSAP is the place where the emergency calls are first answered when someone dials 911, and then either the dispatching, the radio communications to send the proper first responder, be it police, fire, or ambulance, or mental health social worker. is typically dispatched subsequent to that call being answered. In Vermont right now, most of the 911 calls being made with cellular are answered in Williston. So we have what's called a two-stage system. And I participated in the last 911 planning work group that concluded that ideally single-stage call answering and dispatching from the same location without the delays of having to transfer and get another dispatcher on the line from another location, and also the enhanced familiarity with the landscape and the areas where the trouble is, where the resources are, is single-stage call answering and dispatching from the same facility. With that in mind, even though Montpelier gave up its PSAP, somewhat, I believe, due to growing pains with the Enhanced 911 Board. You've heard from me about that and issues with that over the last 20 years or so. Hopefully those will be resolved soon. But Central Vermont is currently dispatching for 18 towns, I believe, including the Capitol Police. In off hours, they're dispatching for the Sheriff's Department, et cetera. So I did bring some of these issues up before the Capitol Complex Commission. The Central Vermont Public Safety Authority, of which Mr. Cheney, Kim Cheney, is the chairman, has recently awarded a contract to a contractor called Televate, a national recognized engineering contractor, to do an engineering assessment of the radio technology services. That is the plan that, as I recall, Mr. Chair, you expressed your intent that the Capitol Police would be a stakeholder and cooperator in that study to make sure that the radio improvements that they were considering were well integrated. So that is underway now. Contracts recently signed. The kickoff meeting has happened. What I'm here to talk about today is the potential of co-locating a Central Vermont PSAP and dispatch center at the same location where the state police intend to repurpose the regional library. That's a really ideal location from a emergency management and disaster recovery point of view. It's a couple of years ago, a plan was done that didn't include the radio technology assessment. And they went, CVPSA began looking for a single site location where they could consolidate the dispatch from Berry City and Montpelier and serve the 18 towns that are dispatched, 18 towns plus, I believe, is the Capitol Police. The need there was, I believe, approximately 3,000 square feet, which I believe you heard last week that's the 3,000 square feet is or 3,060 is what the state police or public safety has designed into what they're calling the super barracks up in Williston, because that will be relocating the public safety answering point from its current, let's say, traffic constrained location to the new facility. So what we're asking is that what I'm proposing, we keep a placeholder while this is in the design stage, evaluate the feasibility, and explore whether or not the facility, sharing the facility or that location with its generator backup, hardened communications facilities, all of which this could serve both the state's interests and the regional consolidated public safety efforts. Because in a failure mode, the two agencies are going to need to rely on each other. And this is an area where regional PSAP consolidation is on the agenda. It's been taken up, and it was part of a bill that passed out of the Senate and was vetoed by the governor for other reasons related to the makeup of the appointments of the Criminal Justice Training Council or something. But that regional dispatch consolidation effort should not be delayed, and we are underway here, as is Chittenden County. And it would be best for all parties if we fully explore the feasibility of co-locating and sharing backup communications facilities and backup generator, etc., with the regional library location. Happy to take any questions.
Senator Mazza.
What's this got to do with the state police barracks? I mean, this is a state police issue. Why are we involved in this? This has nothing to do with us.
Well, the state police are currently the dispatching and call taking location in both Williston and Westminster. If either of those locations,
why aren't they requesting this? If they want it, we have to hear from them. This is their request. That's not even mentioned. We're talking about the building for the barracks. We're not talking about the services provided. That's the state police.
Right. It's more the location and the facility. If we're going to put millions of dollars in public dollars into this location, it should serve both the state and the region. Is the rationale here?
Yeah, I'm missing the point. It's a state police barracks, and unless they request this is their function, not ours. They're requesting the building for their barracks. This is another issue altogether.
Well, it's a regional library building that the state police have designs on. But
who determines the PSAP center? Who's going to determine that?
The 911 board is also in a flux right now because the 911 board decides how many PSAPs are where and how much funding they get.
Well, yeah, but that's not our jurisdiction.
Well, this is the point I'm trying to make is that integrated telecommunications planning is somewhat in a mess right now, and here's an opportunity to maybe get it partially back on track, because the governor 2 years ago, after the decision to opt into FirstNet was made, created by executive order an emergency communications advisory council. But yet 2 years have passed, and that council has still not been appointed. So we're kind of like a freight train running on multiple tracks without a conductor. So it is, I would argue that the legislature should understand these different initiatives and realize that it is inefficient and uneconomical to pursue them in a haphazard manner. So in the absence of a telecommunications plan, in the absence of a 911 plan, in the absence of an emergency communications coordinating council, I believe it falls to the committees of jurisdiction, which would be, in this case, government operations, finance, and institutions, because we are talking about a physical building where these two functions could coexist.
Where does the administration fall on this?
The administration is not responded to. Right, the Head Payne Turnpike tore up totally closed and torn up this past summer, and I did advocate strongly for putting a fiber under the road so that the state police barracks would also have diverse, rooted, redundant communications, not subject to a windstorm or a hurricane knocking out the facilities.
All right, one more question, and I'll let you go. What did the House say to this proposal?
This proposal wasn't made to the House.
Well, if it's not coming from the House, I don't know how we're going to get involved in something that's not our jurisdiction. That's all I have at this time. Thank you.
I guess what I'm asking, Senator Mata, is that the placeholder, that the feasibility and the space programming be explored on whether there is room on that site for these two functions to coexist, because it's in the state's interest to be able to fail over to a regional PSAP, and it's in the region's interest to be able to share and cooperate with the state for backup and emergency response communication.
So, Steve, this committee does not deal with the policy question of where to put something. And I guess my question would be, have you brought this proposal to finance, who's basically been leading the charge on reconstituting the Vermont Telecommunications Authority?
I'm scheduled to speak to them tomorrow, and as soon as the bill gets over from the House. I have raised it with the governance, reconciling the governance issues. We're basically falling into a problem of failed planning and failed coordination that has been chronic in state government. So by asking that you keep this option open for Central Vermont Public Safety Authority, I believe you're moving in the right direction.
Okay. We will have to take our lead from finance and or GovOps, depending on which committee makes decisions about what mechanical structure is put together for all of this. And our job basically is to come up with the space should they tell us they want to go in a given direction. So I imagine that you're possibly feeling some pushback here, but it is not within our committee's jurisdiction to make the decisions about where items should be placed. It's our committee's responsibility to come up with the space when they tell us what they need. So I'm going to, I guess, wait for finance to give some direction on the question. We've heard what you have for concerns. Appreciate you coming to explain that. But I'm going to suggest strongly that the conversation needs to be in finance, possibly also GovOps, to give us some direction on whether they approve or disapprove of this. Is totally up to them. We would not be able to override their decision. So I guess I'm going to leave it at that unless the committee has any other comments or questions. I see no hands. Steve, I'm not sure if you can see us, but thank you for coming. And we've made a note of what you've had to say.
I would just caution that as you know, the telecommunications planning and the finance committee is, let's say, far behind on getting up to speed on these issues, and the door will close on this very cost-effective solution if you don't at least preserve a placeholder for it.
I've heard what you've had to say, but let me tell you that Senator Brock has taken a lead charge on this issue. So I'm not going to agree with you on them being, well, let me rephrase that. I'm going to suggest that our committee is much farther behind than Randy Brock and the Finance Committee is right now. And unless and until they tell us what they want to have happen, we don't have jurisdiction to override what they decide to do. So we've got your testimony. I understand that there is a concern. I'm going to wait to hear from finance as to what they have for desires and steer you in the direction of that committee to try to get your point across to them. Yeah. I have to move the conversation on. Kim Cheney has joined us here today as well. Kim, welcome to Senate Institutions. I take it you have something you want to weigh in on with this conversation as well. Oh, and again, by the way, if you could give us a basic biographical background and let the audience know how you fit into this puzzle.
Okay. I'm Kim Cheney. I was state's attorney in Washington County and attorney general for the state back in the late 60s, 70s, and in private law practice since then. When I retired, I wanted to continue my interest in public safety and law enforcement. And the Central Vermont Public Safety Authority has been created by vote of two towns now, Barre City and Montpelier, and approved by the legislature and signed by the governor as a separate municipality. Our mission is to try to get regional coordination. And just quick picture of central Vermont. As Steve has said, Montpelier dispatches for some 17 towns itself and several rural towns. Those towns maintain their own transmitting facilities. And Barre City has a dispatch center, and they dispatch for the sheriffs themselves and some other central Vermont towns. Just to elaborate on where we're at, if you live in Cabot and you have a medical emergency or a fire, you call 911, that call goes to Williston. Williston dispatcher then calls, in this case, the Montpelier dispatcher and says, this is what happened, gives them a summary, and then that dispatcher contacts Cabot volunteers and tells them of the emergency. One of the things that, among other, let me just say that communications in this area are ill-funded, unplanned, and quite, they're good people working hard with very little ability to finance and improve the systems they deal with. In 2018, CVPSA proposed a single site dispatching center. And I just sent the basic floor plan to Denise in case you want to look at it. But it was about 3,000 square feet, and it would have had room for a PSAP. And by the way, if the PSAP and the dispatcher are in the same facility, you could save as much as a minute in response time, which may, in some cases, really be critical. So better communications are a key public safety issue. I think what Steve has laid out for you, and which I would second, the state police are going to move their barracks from Middlesex to Montpelier. It's up on a hill. It's out of the flood zone. Both Barre and Montpelier, where most dispatching takes place for Central Vermont, are in a flood zone. They have plans to back each other up and fail safe, but it's a risky process. The planned state police barracks is on a hill and has the opportunity for better connectivity to this kind of patched together network that is now existing. I understand the limits of your jurisdiction, but I also understand that if the proper committee, finance or whoever it is, wants to come through you, from my point of view, my experience with how you folks work, if you have some basic idea of what it was about before they get there, you're ahead of the game. And I think what I would like to see is when the barracks plan comes up, I'm not suggesting you build a single site or anything of the kind. There's land up there though. And when we were planning for a single site, we looked to construct a building. And I'm not going to give you all the details, but it needed space for several people, sleeping quarters, and security, amongst other things. And we figured about a 3,500 square foot building would cost $1.6 million or so. I'm not asking you to appropriate money for it. I'm not asking you to look at the plan. I'm asking you, when you look at this regional picture, which desperately needs help and planning, that you just say, well, look, maybe we need a space attached to this building that if the funds come available, we could have a place to put it. I guess that's a couple of years from now. Senator Mazza, you have a question?
You're muted, Dick. Dick, you're muted.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I just go back to the original question. This has nothing to do with what we want or what we don't want. The move is to move the state police barracks like we have all over the state. And to come to us with a request that we know nothing about, this is something that has to come to us from the state police who are building a barracks that want some extra space for future center for a call center or something. So I'm still missing out here. I'm missing the whole point of how you're coming somewhere to set a policy that we know nothing about. Maybe the best idea in the world, but the state police, I've dealt with these barracks all over the state. They make the request and we go along with building the size of the building for them. So I'm missing something here that I can't get. I don't know.
Well, I understand your jurisdictional issue. All I know is that poor planning in the past has created a lot of problems.
What is poor planning? You're saying this is poor. It may be the best idea in the world that you're proposing. It may be the worst. How do I know that?
Well, you won't obviously until you, but I'm not asking you, I'm only asking you to keep in mind that future needs for all of Central Vermont public safety dispatching are desperate. We need space.
Who says we need it? Who, you?
Oh, I think everybody agreed. Well,
Who's head of the division?
let me be specific. The problem with all this planning is that every jurisdiction wants to maintain its own power and not cede it to anybody else. And all regional planning, as you know, is a headache. I'm here to suggest to you that some opportunity may come up, and this may be it, just to set aside a little space, talk to the designers and say, what if this comes to fruition and the lives of Central Vermonters can be dramatically improved if you do this? Can you at least get that far and say, does it do you any harm to draw a square box next to your building and leave a little space so somebody could get this center and change?
Who wants the box?
Well, right now, Central Vermont Public Safety Authority does.
And they have proposed this to someone?
Oh, we proposed to vote of the two cities, Barre and Montpelier, to do this. This was at the request.
They said no or yes.
They said no.
Okay. End the story.
Well, every story has a start and an end.
Okay, that's all right. Yep.
Every good idea doesn't come fully blown and accepted, So
thank you.
I just want to talk to thoughtful people about the future of the state and give you an idea that there is a possibility for better safety of our citizens.
Kim, can I ask, have you had this conversation with Jennifer Fitch from BGS?
I just wrote it on your gun bill.
I have not.
It lost. It
Okay.
won by I was one of the 9.
I understand you guys are trying to plant a seed here.
Well, that's exactly
an
right.
Easy way
Yes.
to just describe it. I think you understand and hear the frustration that we are not in the decision-making policy part of that conversation.
I voted against it.
But we do obviously meet with people like BGS to talk about
Okay.
virtually anything under the sun when we're dealing with something that we have to build. So I don't see any problem with us asking the question. But even if we ask the question, it's going to eventually need a specific directive from the policy committees that require it to go forward. But suffice to say, at least in my own mind, I think I understand the problem. I understand that there's a desire to plant a seed just in case. And now I'll shift over to Senator McCormick, who has his nice little yellow hand up.
Thanks. First of all, I just want to say hi, Kim, to an
Hi.
old friend. It's been a while. It's been a while.
Yes, it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. We're both white-haired now. The other, I want to say that I think you do. I got the impression you do understand that we don't make the policy decision, but should that policy decision be made, at some point it will come to us. They're going to want money for the physical structure, and so I thank you for your testimony that you kind of giving us an education that we'll be ready with. This will not be a totally unfamiliar proposition if it does come to us.
Thanks. That's exactly what I was trying to do, and I understand the limits of jurisdiction, but I've watched how things happen in that building, and an idea percolates around, and a lot of people think it's a lousy one, and then some people like it. What can you do?
Well, we'll keep it in mind.
Thank
If
you.
this comes to us, I'll say, oh yeah, Kim Chaney, I remember that.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming along to institutions. We've got that seed planted. I have to keep the conversation moving ahead. So thank you very much for coming. And I'm going to shift over to the Agency of Digital Services. I believe I saw John Quinn in there somewhere. I also see John Adams is here. And both of you are, well, who wants to talk about line 165 first? Vermont Center for Geographic Information.
I can take that one.
Okay, John, welcome. And I'm not sure if you were here earlier. John, you weren't here earlier either. But I'm asking any witnesses that appear before us to keep in mind that we actually have a phone ringing in the background. So if you hang on just a second.
I'm going to sign off. Good to talk to you all.
Just reminds me I have to get that warranty on my non-existent car extended.
Oh my God, you get those calls about 4 a day. They're going back to 2012 on a car.
Yeah, you know what's even worse though? My cell phone all of a sudden has been getting these.
Oh yeah, me too. I got 3 yesterday. My wife and I. Yeah.
So while we have the digital king of Vermont here with us, perhaps John, you can take care of that for us somehow and stop all these phone calls from coming.
John, for the record, I just want you to know I'm on Zoom, okay? I know that I'm a little slow at this, but I just want to tell you.
You're doing very well, Senator. Good job.
There
You will not, you cannot appreciate the shock I had when I got into my Zoom conference and saw he was there first.
Well, I know, John.
I was questioning whether him and Melissa were working out of the same office just for assistance.
Thank God for my daughter.
Yeah. All right. So we have 2 items that are on the spreadsheet, line 165 and line 166. 65 is the Geographic Information Digital Ortho Photography Mapping. And 166 is the Dmv Core System Replacement IT project. Who would like to go first?
I would. 166.
Okay.
If that's okay with all of you. I think it'll be fairly quick.
Well,
This was something that,
it may and it may not be, John. I've neglected to tell you, we have 3 brand new members on the committee, one of whom was on this
Okay.
committee a long time ago. We also have 1 brand new legislator, and we have a YouTube audience that we have no idea. So I try to keep this down at the ground level and make everybody start from literal scratch.
Way down the bottom for me. Okay.
Way down the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
perfect. I can do that.
Put us all at the
So-
bottom, committee members. I just want you to know that we're all at the bottom, all right?
So for the record, I'm John Quinn. I'm the Secretary of Digital Services in the state CIO. So I hold 2 titles. One that is responsible for an agency of about 380 IT professionals across state government in the executive branch that really looks out for the needs of the agencies, our partners across state government to deliver services to Vermonters. The other role that I have as state CIO is the bigger, broader picture of the citizen, frontline perspective, and to advise the governor on wider policy issues involving technology use across not just our state, but across the citizenry and cybersecurity and a bunch of other technology issues. Today, I am here to talk about the Dmv Core System replacement IT project. I'll go into a little information about it, but I think I may be here because of some confusion. So the Dmv Core System is a mainframe application that is well over 40 years old and limits the ability for the DMV to modernize not only some of their processes, but become more efficient in the way that they operate as an entity. And I could go into a bunch of technical examples, but really there's a limitation on what you can do and how you can do it with an old mainframe like that in the application that it's running on. Unfortunately, these things are extremely expensive. This is just one of several projects that we have on a list that are up above $30 million for implementation, unfortunately. This year, we proposed through the House Appropriation Bill an idea to start an IT special fund. In that fund, the governor seeded that fund or proposed to seed that fund with $53 million of one-time excess revenue money that we weren't expecting up until about a week before the budget process was due. So it was really a last-minute seeded effort to shore up or to start to fund some of these longer-term investments and to get these projects started. At the same time that was going on, the DMV was asking for money for their replacement. They proposed to use capital funding. I think, I know the administration's view on using capital funds for IT proposals is not something that we like to do. It's really a last ditch effort if we have no other choice. And as you all know, for the past several years, we've been funding integrated eligibility, the match, out of the capital fund. As you'll see this year, it's not in there because we've shifted it to that special IT fund. This was the DMV case management system was a request by the agency. It was not a governor's recommend, though. The governor did not think that this was an appropriate way to fund this IT project and has plans for funding it through a special IT fund. In the first year, he set aside $15 million, which would fund year one. Yesterday, House Appropriations upped that number to $24.5 million to ensure that we would get one of the 2 modules done. And that way there would be funding that would at least accomplish half the project and to secure that funding in a side bucket. So the long and short of it is the administration is not asking for any capital fund money for the DMV.
So this money coming through approps now, is any of that COVID?
It is the ARPA money that they're recommending. So when the administration proposed its budget, we were using excess one-time funds. And the conversation that was happening in House Appropriations last night was they are not going to use that money. They're going to use ARPA money instead. That's their plan.
Now, is this project going to be completed with a one-term payment, or is this something the state has to sustain on the other end of that initial project in some fashion that might bring you back into the capital budget?
Well, it's hard saying right now, right? I'll resist the capital fund at all costs, even though I love to spend time with your committee. Just because, we don't like to pay for IT projects this way. We do have plans for funding in the out years. The entire project, including people cost for the implementation, is just about $47 million. So that breaks into two pieces, right? That breaks into module 1 and module 2. The first module being about $24.5 million and will take about 18 months time to complete. That second, $23 million or $22.5 million from everyone on the same page perspective, we're not sure how we're funding that yet, meaning, the legislature and the administration haven't come up with a proposal for that second piece, that phase 2. It's our intention, we've been talking about a number of different options. We talk about it just about weekly right now, about not only reoccurring revenue sources that we can use for that project, but other IT projects across state government. The Agency of Digital Services came up with about $10.9 million of reoccurring revenue that we found of new existing or new sources that don't raise taxes or fees. And that sits with House Appropriations as well. That piece I don't think they're comfortable with yet. So I'm not sure that we're going to pass the revenue piece this year, but there's still a long ways to go.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to committee questions. I was going to start with Senator Ingalls, but his screen's been frozen since you mentioned that you had 380 people working underneath you.
No, I don't have any questions. It's because we're on transportation and we hear about this all the time, and about the need for the new IT software. It's good knowledge to have, and I appreciate whether you are here or not, whether you think you should be here or not. It's very valuable information to hear, and we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Senator McCormick, you have your yellow hand up still? You're muted, Dick. You're muted.
He wants more information from the last one already.
You're muted.
Yeah. No, is this going to have implications for customer satisfaction when dealing with the Department of Labor?
Absolutely. The level of offerings online, as well as processes behind the scenes, should dramatically improve the value to Vermonters. I'm not an expert in or have all the stats in front of me as far as the number of Vermonters we serve or the number of registrations issued, but the numbers I do know is we'll be updating over 250 different pieces of application or process through the DMV. This last year, the DMV went from about 1.1 million online transactions to 5.4 million online interactions. So there's absolutely a need for it, and Vermonters see the value in it, which I think is exciting to be able to offer, new additional ways to serve Vermonters.
Well, old men are at a distinct disadvantage when trying to address this issue, because people brush us off. It's like a given. Old men hate computers and we don't know what we're doing and it's all our fault. But what's happening now is I'm getting overwhelming mountains of complaints from young people, savvy young people, who are just saying it doesn't work. And I don't have, You know, I mean, people were talking things like literally all day. Got on the computer in the morning for one simple function, and by the close of business, they were still not satisfied, and that's just not okay.
They're all in your part of the state or what?
What's that?
They're all in your part of the state or what?
Not according to our colleagues. They're all over the state.
And you know, I don't know which specific cases you're talking about, but we've built programs that would take us in past years to do. It would take us 18 months to build some of these things, and we built them in under 4 weeks. So I'm not surprised, and it's not okay that, you know, there's users that are struggling, but we are making improvements every day to the applications to try to make them easier for people. But working under the timelines that we had during a pandemic, you know, especially for things like PUA, pandemic unemployment assistance, we were one of the first states to be able to get checks out to our citizens or our residents. So, you know, I hear you, and we try to improve that every day. What I'm not saying, what I'm not saying is that we're going to stop offering services in the way that we have traditionally, but we want to be able to offer services in new ways as well. And the vendor that we're proposing to use built our tax system, which I think, you know, all of you have probably heard about how well that went, how it changed the way we do tax revenue, how much easier it made things on business. And so for that reason, as well as being successful in other implementations in the DMV on other modules, we've decided to use this vendor because we already have a contract and we know them well, and we know that we'll be successful.
Are you following? Made a suggestion last year that every techie who does stuff in our system be teamed up with an English major, so that an intelligent person can go online, read what's on the screen, do what it says, and things will work, as opposed to having to figure out and guess and work by, you know, in fact, the people use the word intuitive as though that's a good thing, as opposed to logical. You know, that you want a logical layout of information that an intelligent person can follow. And I don't think the techies know how to do that. They know how to do what they know how to do. They're geniuses at setting up the computer. They are not good at communicating to the public what it is they have to do. So you got those English majors lined up, do you?
We couldn't find enough English people, but what we've done in a number of instances is we've asked our citizenry or our residents to help build some of this stuff and help give us advice on what it is that they expect. So whether it's the ADS website, which we had our partners design rather than the techies design, or our DCF Bright Future system, where we're asking the childcare providers to give us feedback on what would make the system easier. We haven't done exactly what you said, but the thought behind it wasn't lost.
Okay, well, I got to assure you, there are lots of English majors looking for work. Yeah. Believe me.
That might be the funniest thing I've heard you say, Senator McCormick.
Said what?
That might be the funniest thing I've heard you say all year.
Well,
The
I'm a funny
Englishmen are not,
guy. Can I say funnier things than that?
the Englishmen are not from the UK, by the way. That's a given. Other comments,
English
questions
major.
from the committee?
No, I want to comment. I haven't seen John in a few years. I was in the House when his agency first got stood up, but I appreciate your work and on projects like this. And, you know, there's still a long ways to go, but we are seeing, you know, the improvement in our IT infrastructure across the state.
I would back
Thank you,
that up
Senator.
also. I would back that up also. I think no one anticipated what this last year has been, and it challenged everybody. No one thought unemployment would go the way it's gone. No one thought, like Department of Motor Vehicles 10 years ago, the system was supposed to be gone. It crashed. And now you went from better than a million to 5 million. And I mean, that's all challenging work. And my hat's off to you folks for holding it all together, because this has been unexpected this past year with what has happened. And so, you know, I don't know a lot about this stuff, but I know that people get frustrated, but you know, this is unnormal times that we've gone through.
You know more than you did last
Well,
year.
thank you.
That's right. I know more than I did last year, right? Yep, yep.
Well, thank you very much. And it's amazing, you know, the amount of rework that we've had to do. And, you know, one example that's not related to the pandemic, but related to very old systems is we made a Y2K fix in 1999 on the mainframe because it wouldn't read 4 digits. We went through and did lots of work to fix that all over the place to make sure that the system wouldn't crash on Y2K. We are now making that change again because we planned it for 20 years out or 25 years out, and we still have those systems. So here we are doing that work of Y2K again because we're still stuck in that old loop. And no one ever expected, you know, 20 or 25 years later, we would be in this position of still having that system.
John, and I love the statue on your head, John. It looks good. Yeah, you got a statue on your head.
Yeah, yeah.
So the only question left has been burning in my mind. Does Dick Wabi still have a soul ringtone on your cell phone?
Yes, the Darth Vader Empire song. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear that, Dick Mazza?
No. What is it?
When his phone rings and it's the theme song from Darth Vader and Star Wars.
You're kidding. Oh, I didn't know that. That's not like Wabi.
It's Wabi.
Oh yeah. Oh God. He's crazier than anything. Yeah.
All right, John, thank you very much for coming. Going to turn to the other John, who's going to talk to us about something completely different.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me in today.
Thanks, John. Tell my daughter I did good. All right.
Hi, folks. I'm John Adams, Director of the Center for Geographic Information, part of the Agency of Digital Services. And Denise, I don't know if I can be, okay, it looks like I can share my screen now. So I put together a few slides. Can folks see that?
Yep. Great.
A few slides for our ortho photography acquisition for our ortho photographic imagery. And I've put a definition up here. I think ortho photographic imagery shouldn't be confused with ornophoto imagery, which would be photos of birds. I believe it was this committee, this senator is no longer on this committee, who asked me a couple of years ago why we were taking photos of birds, which sounds like a very cool job to have, but not what we do. So ortho photos.
Was that John Rogers by any chance?
I do not want to embarrass anyone, and I'll leave you all guessing. So ortho photos are aerial imagery that are where the distortion is corrected, which allows us to use it for a number of different applications. It allows us to measure things so that they're very precise and accurate. We collect things in a 5-year cycle, and our annual request is $125,000. We collect color and infrared imagery, and it has to be a leaf off with no snow, no clouds, and no flooding. So if you think about that in Vermont, that can be a narrow window of just a few hours in April. That's what makes this very challenging and fun to some regards. But if anyone wants a very detailed weather assessment in the middle of April, please feel free to contact our office. We follow some national spatial data accuracy standards and collect at 30 centimeter resolution with targeted 15 centimeters, so higher resolution in some targeted areas, and we have independent QC. Here's a brief history or a timeline of the program, which started back in 1968 and has lived in the tax department for quite some time. We officially took over the program in 2016 from the tax department, though we had been involved since the mid-2000s. Here's a couple images to give you a sense of like the resolution we've been able to improve over the years as costs have come down to acquire higher resolution imagery. This year starts a new vintage. We did in the past year put together an ortho photo work group with members representing natural resources, VTrans, E911, regional partners, as well as academia with representation from UVM, Middlebury, and the Vermont Society of Land Surveyors. They went out and did a user survey asking a number of different questions. Can we do this differently? Can we use either commercial satellite imagery or drones, or and do we really need leaf-off imagery? How frequently do you need it to meet your business needs? And we use this information to come up with our the plan for this vintage, which we make free and available for all to download and use, including for commercial uses. So small businesses, engineers across Vermont can utilize this imagery. And it's available for download as well as a web service. So you think about how you might stream movies on Netflix. You can now stream our imagery directly from our servers and not need to download it onto your machines. And you can also get the uncompressed high resolution imagery on hard drives if absolutely needed. Users include, most all state agencies, municipalities, RPCs, federal agencies, academia, and many folks in the private sector. We also have make our historic imagery available. These capital funds aren't being used currently for any of this historic imagery that we host, but I thought it was worth mentioning. It is very popular and fun to check out. We recently, thanks to some scanning done by some folks at VTrans, we're able to make available statewide 1962 imagery. So if you follow that link there, you can check out what your neighborhood looked like in 1962.
Where would we find the link to this?
It should be, so you should have these slides on your committee webpage. And then if you just click on the Learn More and Access 1962 imagery down on this slide, it should take you to some information about it and how to access it.
Great.
So Ortho Photography is part of what we call our spatial data infrastructure. These are the themes determined by the Federal Geographic Data Committee, and our ortho imagery is really at the foundation or base of it, from which a lot of these other data sets and spatial data are derived. And I'll show you, how that works. So this is one of my favorite examples that really brings together all of these. So I'll go through it quickly and open things up for questions if that works. So this is an example of how we used our imagery to help add addresses to the census master address file to make sure that we didn't miss anyone for this 2020 census. We pulled together as many state databases as we could, and then we used our imagery to confirm that we had addresses there, and bounced it off of our E911 points to make sure we had as many addresses as possible. We used this, we processed it with the UVM Spatial Analysis Lab with our LiDAR data, which is high resolution elevation data, to come up with our, to extract high resolution land cover. So you can see our imagery here. Here it is in color infrared, and they have machine learning algorithms that will extract these features and extract our buildings. From that, we can compare it with E911 and find any points that we've been missing, which is great for public safety, but also great for making sure that we maximize the number of addresses that we have in the Census Master Address database. So we were able to add a little over 8,500 homes to the Census Address database. And this is important for a number of reasons. One of which is the amount of federal dollars Vermont receives that are dependent on those census counts. So this is some work out of George Washington University calculating, an estimated $2.5 billion that we receive annually in federal dollars that are derived from our census numbers. Most importantly, the federal the FMAP calculation. I won't get into this, but I decided to put this slide in. I figured some of you probably have had some exposure to it in the past, and this is really the big equation that it impacts. So we calculated that basically for every person that we missed or undercounted, that would equate to $2,200 federal Medicaid dollars that we would be missing. So our estimated difference, thanks to these addresses added, was around $318 million over 10 years. So you can read more here in detail about all that information if you're interested. And if you'd like to just check out the most recent imagery along with our statewide tax parcel data overlaid on it, we also included a link there that should take you to a viewer that's hopefully logical and not just intuitive for you to use.
So I have to say that I've actually visited that site, and I had to say to the committee, it's extremely fascinating because as you zoom in, you can literally find every parcel of land and find out who the owner is. And just for giggles, I went to Dick McCormick's plot of land, and I took a look at your area, Dick. So just so you know, the world is a very small place, and there's lots of ways to get to see who you are.
Wow. Does the real estate people use this, Senator Ingalls? You must use it.
I use it all the time, every day.
Wow.
We use it every day at the town as well.
So you can point out how many acres that person has and everything?
Yep. And the boundaries.
Wow.
And I was going to ask Senator McCormick what that garden was behind his house, but I'm going to say no, never mind.
I can tell you.
The best looking tomatoes I ever saw.
They don't call him a guerrilla farmer for nothing.
You know,
That's why he
people
acts
can
like he
make
does.
presumptions. People assume that because I was a musician. I never liked pot. It always made me feel like no one liked me.
Can you go to that plot of land, Senator Ingalls? Can you go to a place and it'll tell you the taxes on that place too?
It won't tell me the taxes of it because I don't know why, but I think it's probably somewhat restricted information at times on
Okay.
the tax part of it.
Okay.
But
It'll give you, you don't have to measure it by hand. It'll give you the exact measurements of that lot.
it will give you the boundaries of where the lines are, the lines of the lot are. So it won't give you the 108 feet but it will give you the lot lines of where you can tell you can tell where the lines are of the parcel.
Oh. Huh.
John Adams, I don't know. I see you're at 22 of 23 pages. I don't know how much more you have on this particular PowerPoint presentation, but you obviously have the ability to share your screen right now. Are you able to pull up Parcel Viewer and share that with us on your screen?
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
It is interesting.
Let's see. The perils of the live demo. Let me, I'm sharing that window. I will share.
Is this all done with drones?
No, this is all done with airplanes. Drones are great for very small areas, but they're not cost effective for
Okay.
larger
I'm
ones.
surprised even with airplanes. I thought it would have been satellite.
Yeah, I would have thought.
Yeah, the satellites are challenging because we can't control where satellites are. And let me stop and reshare here. And given the small window we have and the amount of clouds, to get leaf off imagery would be almost impossible. And then the resolution is also much lower.
It has to be a good clear day, right? Yeah.
Right. The other thing is if we were to acquire it that way, we would only be renting the imagery. We can't purchase it and make it available to everyone. So it is something we've thought of and looked at, but not at least currently. Who knows in the future? We may be doing that, but right now, this is sort of the most cost-effective.
I see you're in at the moment. Can you, Dick Mazza, what is your street address?
777 West Lakeshore Drive.
Watch this.
No, Lakeshore Drive. Yeah.
777 West Lake Shore Drive. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Oh my God. That's amazing.
Yeah, we're broadcasting to the YouTube world where you are.
Look at that. That's something. That's, yeah, I'm right over on this side here, and that's across the street is my shopping area. Wow. That's amazing.
This technology is really incredible, and it's a lot of fun to play with.
Boy, I guess you rent that, Russ, or you have to rent
No,
it?
it's on the state website. I have a
Yep.
permanent link on every. I've got probably 6 computers, and every one of my computers has it on there as a link.
Wow. I'll have to figure out how to put it on mine.
It's all free of charge. Just get Melissa to do it for you.
I'll
She'll
get
do it.
Melissa to do it. What do I have to ask for? Maps?
Parcel Viewer is what it's
Parcel
called.
Viewer. Oh, I see it.
Vermont,
There you go.
Vermont Parcel Viewer. And it's now.
It'd be funny if you got John. I bet he could get John Quinn to come do it.
Yeah. There's a link now on our website to this PowerPoint, so you can go back into this PowerPoint and figure out where it is.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Wow.
So, John Adams, you have anything more you'd like to tell us this afternoon?
No, happy to answer any more questions you might have.
Okay, anybody got any questions? I can't see everybody because we're still screen sharing. So holler out if you got a question or a comment. All right. John, thank you very much for coming and joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sure we'll be seeing you again.
Great.